Thank you for watching video.
Okay, good deal.
No, don't take it personally. I have terrible allergies if I start sniffling or using my inhaler.
Okay.
I have a very high sensitivity
Great.
to fragrances, so.
How about you?
Is that
Yeah, I've
you?
got some on, yeah.
Oh,
Everything's under control, right?
Tonight's invocation will be led by Commissioner Devontae Walker, and the pledge will be led by Commissioner Stafford.
Heavenly Father, thank you for your amazing power and work in our lives. Thank you for your goodness and your blessings over us. Bless this meeting today, all those present, as well as the lives of those we will encounter afterwards. Ready us to make every moment count. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Will you join us for the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Planning Commission meeting August 11th, 2022 is now called to order. We encourage you to wear a mask while indoors and observe 6-foot social distancing. And when you come to the podium, please speak into the microphone and so that everyone can hear. If your name is called, please come to the podium, address comments to the Planning Commission, not to the audience. Any questions you ask will be answered once everyone has signed up, has spoken. We understand you have strong feelings one way or another. Out of courtesy, please refrain from applauding, cheering, booing, or other verbal outbursts. This is a fact-finding hearing. If the previous speaker stated the points you wish to make, you may simply acknowledge that so that the hearing may proceed. There is no need to repeat what has already been said. The applicant will have 5 minutes to speak. Other speakers will each have 3 minutes. Please respect the time limit. If you intend to speak, please sign up at the table, which I think that everyone probably has, at the back of the room. Mr. Stoller, please call the roll.
Hobby, Janet, Erickson,
Here.
Stafford. Here. Scott, Gerke,
Present.
Greenway,
Present.
Lamond,
Here.
Walker. Here. Davis. Raymond.
Here. Okay, may I have a motion for approval of last month's minutes? All those in favor?
Make a motion.
Yeah, go ahead.
Second.
Okay, may I have a motion for approval of tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The first item on tonight's agenda is a consent agenda. Items placed on this section are applications which demonstrate compliance with applicable city requirements. These items shall not involve discussion by the Planning Commission or the public. The consent agenda will be voted on in one motion. However, if any two commissions so desire, Individual items may be discussed and/or voted upon as separate matter of business. May I have a motion for approval of tonight's consent agenda with staff findings and recommendations?
So
So-
moved.
Seconded.
Thank you. Director Selma, would you read the items on tonight's consent agenda?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 1, the applicant and owner, Dad's Son Incorporated, seeks a 12-month extension to complete secondary access paving for the cottages at Bayshore Cove Subdivision Phase 1, as required by their preliminary plat, final plat, and surety agreement for this development. This development is located on Clearwater Cove, off Clearwater Court and Bayshore Cove, north of Bayshore Cove HPR. Subject property is located in Board of Directors District Number 6. Recommendation is for approval with 2 conditions. Those conditions are that the application to extend the completion deadline for the cottages at Bayshore Cove paving of the secondary access be extended to July 1st, 2023, secured by a $27,000 irrevocable letter of credit with the following conditions. Number 1, provide ongoing dust and particulate mitigation until the road is improved and construction is complete, so as to prevent dust and debris impacting the surrounding neighborhood. Number 2, compliance with all previous conditions of approval. Item number 2, the applicant is Matthew Breckenridge with Crafton Tull and Associated Incorporated on behalf of Oaklawn Jockey Club Incorporated, seeking conditional use minor amendment approval to develop a track material storage building on the subject property. Subject property consists of Block 15, lots 12 through 14 in Fairdale Addition subdivision in the vicinity of Highland and Tuggle Streets. This property is currently zoned C4, is approximately 56 acres of land, has a future land use plan map designation of linear commercial corridor, is located in Board of Directors District Number 5. Recommendation is for approval with 6 conditions. The recommendation is to amend the conditional use boundary approved by conditional use 190036 to encompass the subject Block 15, lots 12 to 14 of Fairdale Addition subdivision, subject to the following conditions, because with those conditions, the requirements of Hot Springs Code, Section 16272 are met. Number 1, the development site shall be constructed and developed in strict accordance with the approved site plan, including but not limited to location of buildings, drives, parking, landscaping, and utilities. Number 2, this approval encompasses only what is illustrated on the site plan as shown, and any additional development and/or future phases will require submission of separate application and approval. Number 3, all construction and construction activity are to be accomplished in strict accordance with the development plan and all approval conditions, and with the minimum standards, codes, rules, regulations, and policies as may now or hereafter be required or enacted by the City of Hot Springs, the State of Arkansas, and/or the United States of America, including the Arkansas Fire Prevention Code, whether or not submitted for staff review or Planning Commission approval. Number 4, all exterior illumination shall be fully downcast and fully shielded, retaining all illumination on the subject property. Number 5, all required permits will be in hand for stormwater, engineering, and building prior to any work beginning. And number 6, requirements from the engineering department are a 12-foot traffic lane, pavement, 2-foot curb and gutter, 5-foot sidewalk along Highland Street, to be shown as shown on plans submitted at the time of building permit application. B, a 3-foot grass buffer between the back of curb and face of sidewalk is preferred. And C, Please call engineering for inspection of formwork prior to the concrete pour. That concludes the consent agenda for tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Selman. All those in favor of tonight's consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, consent agenda is approved. Items 1 and 2 are approved. We have no new business tonight, so we will go directly to the director's report. Ms. Selman.
Thank you. I have, first of all, a brief video. Well, it's brief compared to like a limited series on cable. It's 15 minutes. This is a video that was put together by Camiros, which is the consultant group who will be helping us do our new development code. Now, I've picked a city that is absolutely nothing like Hot Springs. So when they talk about their concern for the working waterfront, we probably won't be covering that. But I wanted you to see how they approach phase 1. I'm going to go through the schedule after we see this. How they approach phase 1, which is an assessment of our existing regulations in comparison to what is in our comprehensive plan, what is in other adopted plans. And so this is kind of a peek at the approach that they will be taking. So, Dawn, take it away.
The Land Use Code evaluation is a part of Recode Portland, a multi-phased process focused on rewriting the city's land use code for the first time in more than 50 years. The overarching goals of the Recode process are to create a new code that's user-friendly, advances the goals of Portland's plan, and enables the city to effectively address issues related to housing, design, preservation, conservation, the working waterfront, energy, and transportation. Phase 1 of the Recode process was centered around an effort to reorganize the code into a modern, rational, user-friendly format, and to implement some key policies from Portland's plan, including provisions for accessory dwelling units, off-street parking flexibilities, and sign standards. Phase 1 of the process concluded in November 2020 with the adoption of a reformatted, restructured, and updated land use code. The Land Use Code evaluation represents the first major work product of Phase 2 of Recode Portland. The work of Phase 2 will build upon the foundation established during Phase 1, expanding into significant substantive revisions to the content of the code to bring it into alignment with the city's priorities, including confronting the impacts of climate change, mitigating sea level rise, addressing issues of racial and social equity, and supporting a diverse and affordable supply of housing, among others. The evaluation explores the impacts of the city's current regulations on these key policy areas and presents a series of concepts, approaches, and recommendations targeted to ensure that the work of Phase 2 significantly advances the goals of Portland's plan and other city policy documents. Within the evaluation, regulatory concepts are classified based upon their relationship with 6 key themes of Portland's vision for the future: that of an equitable, sustainable, dynamic, secure, authentic, and connected community. Where a specific recommendation addresses one or more of these themes, it is indicated as such within the document. Updating Portland's land use code is an unavoidably technical process by nature. Though the evaluation seeks to be intentional in connecting suggested concepts, approaches, and recommendations to established policies, the revisions themselves must respond to the nature and organization of the code as a regulatory document. As such, the evaluation structures its recommendations not by policy area, but by type of regulatory control, including uses and use standards, dimensional and design standards, zones, general development standards, parking, loading and access, landscape, nonconformities, and updates to the code structure. So, what does this all mean? Let's take a brief walk through each of these categories and see what the evaluation recommends. Uses and use standards. Uses and use standards directly address the types of land uses that are allowed on property across the city. For instance, use standards define whether restaurants or retail are permitted in certain areas, what kinds of residential uses are allowed on a property, and where uses like auto service stations are allowed to operate. Allowed uses vary by zone, meaning that certain uses might be allowed in one area of the city, but not in another. Uses and use standards are central to achieving the goals of Portland's plan. Rethinking which types of uses are allowed where can help to match opportunities for housing, institutional, commercial, or industrial uses to the areas of the city where they're most needed. For example, allowing new types of housing within certain residential districts could allow for the creation of additional housing units, a major goal of Portland's plan. The evaluation identifies opportunities to revise use regulations within the code to better support the creation of complete neighborhoods in Portland, addressing middle-density housing, the creative economy, and urban agriculture. It also highlights the potential for additions or refinements to the city's range of social service and housing-related uses, and the need to review use regulations through the lens of Portland's climate resiliency goals. Dimensional and design standards. At their most basic level, dimensional standards establish where on a property buildings may be located and how big they can be. For instance, dimensional standards may define how close to a property line a building can sit, how tall that building can be, and how much of the lot it's allowed to cover. Dimensional standards also establish minimum lot sizes for certain uses, which impact, for instance, how many residential units can be built on a site. Design standards work to augment dimensional standards by further defining how a building should relate to the public realm around it. For instance, design standards might require that a certain percentage of a building contain doors or windows that face the street. Portland's plan foregrounds concepts, such as promoting transit-oriented development and housing production, and updates to the code's dimensional standards can fundamentally affect whether these concepts can become a reality in Portland. The evaluation recommends adjusting dimensional standards to help achieve climate goals, like regulating impervious surface maximums more consistently, considering height and setbacks in the context of resiliency, and considering dimensional bonuses, for example, height or density, in cases where climate goals are met. The evaluation also recommends potential revisions to dimensional and design standards that can help to support housing creation and transit-oriented, walkable urban development in the city. Zones are the basic building blocks of the Land Use Code and the fundamental organizing element for how its regulations are applied. Each zone within the Land Use Code is created with a specific purpose and contains a set of regulations that address uses, dimensional standards, and other development standards to achieve that purpose. For instance, Portland's code includes a series of residential zones, mixed-use zones, island zones, industrial zones, and open space zones, among others. The city's zoning map identifies the specific geographic areas that are within each zone, effectively applying the regulations of the zone to real property in Portland. As one of the foundational aspects of the city's land use code, zones and zone-based regulations play a critical role in achieving the goals of Portland's plan. For instance, basic revisions to the city's residential zones could open opportunities for additional and more diverse housing creation across the city, moving Portland closer to its goals related to equity, security, and sustainability. Further, modifications to mixed-use zoning could help support transportation goals and encourage the creation of complete neighborhoods. The Land Use Code evaluation explores opportunities to refine, revise, and reorient the city's palette of zones to better align with the goals of Portland's plan. It takes perhaps the most critical look at the residential zones, with an eye toward implementing the city's goal of creating opportunities for a diverse range of housing options across neighborhoods in the city. The evaluation also recommends adjustments to the city's mixed-use, industrial, and open space zones, identifying where zones may need to be revised to ensure they're achieving their purpose, where they might be consolidated with other zones, or where their elimination may be the best course of action. Certain rules and regulations within the Land Use Code apply to all development, regardless of the use of the zone. For example, performance standards dimensional standards, and other requirements are included to help protect the city's natural resources, incentivize green building techniques, and ensure compatibility between different uses and structures. Portland's plan and One Climate Future encourage the city to look for opportunities where natural resource protections can be strengthened or expanded, low-impact development can be encouraged, and flexibilities for green building techniques and technologies can be incorporated into the code. General development standards can also address things like the projection of architectural features into setbacks or the right-of-way, and where and how certain accessory structures can be located, acknowledging the authentic character of the city. The Land Use Code evaluation recommends a series of revisions that can provide greater flexibility for new development while maintaining the city's authenticity, notably through targeted exceptions and rules for architectural elements and accessory structures and uses. Additionally, the evaluation addresses issues of natural resource protections, green building, and green infrastructure, identifying where regulations could be expanded or new approaches could be considered. The off-street parking and loading requirements of the Land Use Code determine how much and where off-street parking and loading must be provided in association with any given land use in the city. Portland's plan and One Climate Future emphasize the goal of reimagining our built environment to support access to housing, employment, goods, and services without the need for an automobile. The Code's off-street parking and loading regulations are central to this vision, as they directly relate to how much of our built environment is devoted to automobiles and their storage. Quite often, off-street parking can be the primary driver of site designs rather than factors such as walkability or the creation or preservation of open space. Modifying these regulations can have a profound impact on site development by providing the flexibility to use land for other purposes that address city goals, such as green infrastructure, public space, or additional housing. The evaluation builds upon recent changes to off-street parking regulations, with recommendations that encourage mode shift and improve the design and functionality of new off-street parking and loading areas where they're constructed. Recommendations also acknowledge the emergence of new technologies and encourage new development to accommodate the supportive infrastructure for advancements in electric and autonomous vehicles. Finally, the evaluation recommends refinements to the city's bicycle parking standards, helping to ensure that they continue to meet the functional needs of bicyclists in the city. Landscape provisions in the code require that all new development preserve or provide landscaped elements. These standards prevent the removal of certain trees and require that certain site features, such as mechanical equipment and off-street parking, be screened from view. They also require that certain incompatible land uses be buffered from residential areas, and that new street trees be planted as new development occurs. Existing landscape standards tend to focus predominantly on the aesthetics of the built environment and the softening of transitions between land uses. Both Portland's plan and One Climate Future emphasize the need to think more holistically about the benefits of natural areas and landscaping as they relate to the city's goals around climate, equity, and ecology. The evaluation recommends that a new unified landscape chapter be introduced into the Land Use Code that would apply to all new development and be augmented to overtly prioritize and facilitate landscaping and landscape alternatives that further the city's goals. The Land Use Code establishes rules that govern how non-conforming lots, structures, and uses that don't comply with the current Land Use Code may be developed, occupied, or operated. Under these rules, nonconformities may continue so long as they aren't exacerbated, with the eventual goal of achieving compliance with the Land Use Code. While Portland's plan provides no specific direction on changes to nonconformities, it does encourage creative thinking around how existing development may be repurposed to account for changes in land use. Likewise, the plan identifies that zoning in many locations across the city is incongruous with the current built form and may need to be revised to achieve broader compliance. The evaluation recommends modest changes to the city's allowance for nonconformities to account for individual nonconforming characteristics of a site, provide additional flexibility for enlarging nonconforming structures, and encourage change over time. Prior to the adoption of Recode Phase 1, Portland's Land Use Code was lengthy, challenging to navigate, and redundant. This was largely due to its structure, which was organized primarily around individual zoning districts. Phase 1 of Recode addressed many of these issues, restructuring the code thematically and introducing graphics and tables to help clarify the regulations. While the efforts of Recode Phase 1 resulted in a code that is considerably more user-friendly, it was always understood that additional restructuring would occur as part of Phase 2, as content changes are expected to result in a more streamlined regulatory framework. The code evaluation acknowledges this and cites additional opportunities to make use of illustrations and matrices to depict regulations related to design standards, rules of measurement, dimensional requirements, and accessory site elements and structures. We encourage everyone to learn more about this important project by visiting us at www.recodeportland.me. There, you can review the land use code evaluation in detail by clicking at the top of the page or on the image of the report in the sidebar. You can review the document, learn more about specific recommendations, and explore connections between Portland's plan and the recommendations of the land use code evaluation. You can also click anywhere in the document to leave a comment, and you can view, like, or respond to the comments of fellow Portlanders. Let us know what you think at recodeportland.me.
Okay, that's it. Now, one important thing, or a couple of important things to note, would be...
Hey there, homeowners. Inflation is crazy right now, but the biggest bill going up is
Inflation.
electric bills right now. You can stop them like I did.
Okay, good. Thanks, Don. Their effort to redo their code was based upon their adopted plan. Ours will be based on our adopted plan. Don't look for island zoning. We're just not going to do it. They have a city government system that focuses on delivery of social services. We don't have that kind of government. So a lot of the things that you saw and heard in Portland's effort, we will not be doing. Many of the things that you saw and heard, we will be doing. We do want a code that is easier to use, that people can understand, and that they don't need to hire someone to explain to them. That's not good government anymore. So we're looking to have a document that has lots of illustrations, tables that allow a lot of information to be out there and that you can compare one zone to another. Our code right now has one graphic in it. One. We don't want to just double that. We want to do something that's going to make a big difference. So the things that we will be looking at do not include short-term rental. That is the board's baby, and they are keeping it to themselves. So that's where we are on that. I'll just quickly go through the 3 items that I handed out. The first is the goal section from Forward Hot Springs 2040. This is the short version. The long version is available on the department's website, and I encourage you to take another look at that. I know most of you have been through it. But this is a quick look at the things that we will be looking at. Portland's topic headings were sustainable, I don't know what all else, I don't remember. These are ours. We have different categories, and we'll be looking at different things. So one of the reasons that we chose Camiros is because they are known for taking a very local approach to putting things together. We're not going to get a cut and paste, find and replace version of Portland or Grand Junction or Cincinnati. we're going to get our own code. And, you know, that's something that, I don't know if you're worried about it, but when we were looking for a consultant to assist us with this big project, that is one of the things we were very worried about. We had one interested firm that has a hard and fast way that they do things, and that's not what we were looking for. We wanted a group that has the expertise to translate what we're trying to do into a document that people can use and people can understand. So you shouldn't be seeing anything in the code that isn't already here or in the code that we have. Some things will drop out. Some things we'll relook at. Most of you who've been around for any period of time realize that in our table of uses, which is our comprehensive list of everything that you can do and what zone you can do it in, has never included retail. Don't ask me why. But, I mean, there are just some things that need to be relooked at and analyzed for their utility and see if we still need those things there, if we need something different. This is a huge opportunity for us. Planning Commission will be very, very much involved in that as we go through this. And so I want you to have a copy. The stapled together white thing is a copy of our agreement with the consultant. And we'll take you through in detail what the tasks are and what the deliverables will be as we go through this project. And finally, the one-pager is a very short version of what is in the contract. This is a 20-month project. I do want to emphasize that the final 4 months are dedicated to approvals. And so public meetings, lots of planning commission involvement, and then of course final adoption by the board of directors. So the first 6 months will be phase 1. They will be looking at our code. We will be looking at our code. We, the big we, planning commission, you'll be looking at it. So plan on that. It's great reading, and I know you'll enjoy it as much as we do. But we have got to go through that thing and figure out why people have so much trouble using it.
Using our code?
Yes. Yep. So we'll be going through that. The final code, that will take 6 months. The first month begins in the middle of August, this month. So the 6 months should end in the middle of February. The final phase, phase 2, be putting together a final code. There will be many drafts, many meetings, and many different ways for people to be involved. If there was anything good that came out of COVID, we discovered that there are so many better ways to hear from people than putting them all in a room, which is either too cold or too hot, with people sneezing on them. There are other things we can do. Will we have meetings? Yes, we still will have meetings. But there are going to be other options for people. So if they can't come to a meeting and they work nights and they're awake when we're asleep, they can go to the website, they can comment, they can look at things. We'll have a variety of media available so that folks can understand what we're trying to do, what we think we are doing, and let them react to that. So that's it. I promised I wouldn't take too long. It's kind of 6:30. If you have questions.
Yeah, I do. How do we get people to the website?
We have a very good resource in Aaron and Katie in public information. They take a very aggressive approach to getting information out, using both traditional and non-traditional methods. They're very active on social media, Twitter, Facebook, whatever all, I don't know, I'm not on there, so I don't know, but they do, and they do it very well. We, with the comprehensive plan, found that the use of videos was good to help people to kind of see if we need to show an example of something. We can do it that way. I think the meetings that we do, we will record and probably provide on, again, on the website. We'll be out talking about it, you know, civic groups, church groups, whoever wants to hear about it, will be there. And
Could
if
we
you
do
have
some
ideas.
Billboard advertising, anything that just puts it in their face?
Well, you know, last time, not the last time we did a plan, but a while back, we did put something on the thing at the Malco. I mean, there are a lot of different things we can try. But any ideas that you've got, shoot them to me. We'll
Well,
take a look.
I definitely have some of the same concerns. It looks like this is a great basis for what needs to be done, but as a consultant, one of the things I look for at the end is kind of a communication plan. And so I think that kind of goes to what you're talking about. And it looks like there's lots of elements of communication plan in here, but, you know, a real focus on getting it out,
Yes.
I think really needs to be in there.
They are, the consultant team is working with Aaron and Katie in public information right now to put together their strategy. There will be branding of the project so that people will see the, whatever our logo is and know when they see it, which I think they'll be very sick of seeing at some point. I hope they will. I hope they'll know what it is and say, oh, you know, I might want to catch up on that. So we're trying to do more than the traditional methods. They really don't work.
The first sentence of the scope is the purpose of phase one is to identify development issues and begin to engage the public
Yes,
in the process.
yep.
So I think that's real important because being in the building business, and Brian, you know, we've heard people complain about the complexity of our codes.
Oh, yeah.
And so, and I don't think that's true. In my business with the planning department, I never had any problems, but a lot of people say they have problems, and I don't know what they are. But, you know, you guys have always worked with everyone that I've sent to you, and but somehow the public doesn't feel that way.
Yeah, and this is a good opportunity for us to make some inroads there, to hear what people are saying and to see how we can better work with the information to put it in a usable format.
Yeah, for the different constituencies that are interested.
Right.
And all of that information would not necessarily be at the same level and detail.
That is true. And then, of course, during those final 4 months, we'll also be working on the user manual, which is something we haven't had before, which we're hoping is a way to put the information in a format that is usable for people. The person who's only going to do one project ever in their entire lives shouldn't have to go to planning school to figure out how to do it. So this will be a new effort that the city has not done in the past, and will be a whole new piece that the public can use and that professionals can use.
Brian, do you know developers that would want to come and interact with the planning department
And engineers.
and engineers?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
They go hand in hand.
Yep.
It usually starts with engineering.
Mm-hmm.
And then while development is ongoing, there's certain things that occur, but it primarily starts with engineers. Absolutely.
Well, I'd like to see a seminar type thing where we can invite these people here And,
We'll definitely be doing that.
okay.
There is a development code team that will be put together with a variety of users. We've talked to a couple. We want to be sure particularly that we have the county judge involved. There are others as well, and we do have some engineers. But we're going to try.
Non-local?
Oh, yeah.
Well, the non-locals are gonna tell you the truth. I
Well,
mean,
the
locals-
non-locals think we're okay.
Well, I don't know.
Well,
Maybe they
some
do.
If they work in other places,
Well, I mean, there's, yeah, Fayetteville,
yeah,
Little Rock,
yeah,
Hot Springs,
yeah. Yeah,
and some other places out of state. Yeah, I mean, they've got the best, experience of anybody.
that's right. If you have someone in mind, shoot me the name.
Yeah, I think that.
Yeah.
that-
Yeah, I'll get some.
Yeah, do. And that goes for everyone. If you can think of someone who would be good to involve in this, let's get them on board.
Well, and the builders, the ones that are out there framing and roofing and all that stuff, I don't think that they necessarily would be involved in this because they're just told by the engineers what to do.
Right.
So, but again, that might be another consideration, so.
Well, whatever we need to do, all your ideas are welcome, and we will get them into this.
I have an idea. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second? Good night, y'all.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh.
It's a great idea. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, yeah. We are too. And